The big courtroom got real quiet when little Sharon stepped forward. Her old shoes made funny squeaking noises on the shiny floor. Poor Mommy sat there in bright orange clothes with chains on her hands, tears running down her face. Judge Powell sat in his wheelchair behind his big desk, his hands held tight to his chair wheels. His legs hadn't worked since his car crashed 3 years back. "Free my mommy, and I'll tell you a secret," little Sharon said, loud enough for everybody to hear. Folks started laughing. The mean lawyer smiled like it was all a big joke. The people sitting in the jury box looked at each other and shook their heads. Even the big guard by the door had to smile. But Sharon just kept looking right at the judge, her eyes big and bright. Judge Powell started to lift his little hammer to make everyone hush. But then something strange happened. His legs felt all tingly. He hadn't felt nothing in those legs since his accident. He thought his mind was playing tricks. "Little girl," he said in his deep voice, "this ain't a place for making deals or telling secrets." Sharon didn't scare one bit. "But my secret is real special," she said with a twinkle in her eye. "I promise." If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now back to the story. Let me take you back to where it all began, before all the court days and jail visits. Before folks started talking behind their backs, Sharon and her mommy lived happy as could be in their little apartment on Maple Street. Every morning, sunshine would come through their yellow kitchen curtains while Mommy made pancakes shaped like bunnies and teddy bears. The sweet smell of syrup mixed with the clean smell of fresh-washed clothes hanging in their tiny bathroom. Their happy laughs covered up the sounds of leaky faucets and noisy neighbors. That Tuesday started just like any old day. Mommy had fixed Sharon's hair in pretty braids and packed her lunchbox with a little note inside. "Be my sunshine today," it said. Just like always, they had no idea that by supper time, everything would change. No one told them that police would come to Mommy's work, putting shiny handcuffs on her wrists, saying she took money that wasn't hers. How fast a happy life can break into tiny pieces, leaving only tears where smiles used to be. The jail cell was cold and small, with walls the color of old dishwater. Joyce Connie sat on the edge of her thin mattress, her orange jumpsuit making her feel like a traffic cone. How did things go so wrong so fast? Just last week, she was making pancakes for her little girl. Now she was here, in this tiny box with bars, being called a thief. Joyce had always worked real hard. After Sharon's daddy left when their baby was just 2, Joyce had done everything by herself. She took the job at Dr. Miller's office answering phones and making appointments. The pay wasn't much, but it kept food on the table and the lights on. She never missed a day of work, not even when she had that awful flu last winter. "Connie, visitor for processing." The guard's voice echoed down the hall. Joyce wiped her eyes quick. Must be her lawyer, that young man with the too big suit who looked like he just finished school yesterday. He kept telling her to take a deal, to say she did it even though she didn't. "I ain't saying I took money I never touched," Joyce had told him last time. "I don't care if it looks bad for me. My girl is watching, and I won't teach her to lie." The money had gone missing real slow-like. First it was just $50 here, $100 there from the office cash box. Then bigger amounts started disappearing from the computer system. $3,000 gone without a trace. Joyce didn't even know how to do those fancy computer money moves. But she was the one who handled the cash box, and she was the one who stayed late, sometimes to finish up work. She was always there when money went missing. Joyce had heard Dr. Miller tell the police, and she's been buying new things lately. Shoes for her daughter, a used TV. Where'd she get the money for that? She's a single mom on a receptionist salary. Joyce wanted to scream that the shoes were from the church donation box, and the TV was a birthday gift from her neighbor, Mr. Wilson, who was moving to Florida. But nobody asked, and nobody believed her when she tried to tell them. The worst part wasn't the jail cell or the bad food, or even being called a thief. The worst part was being away from Sharon, her sweet little girl with the magic in her fingers and the sunshine in her smile. Joyce cried into her pillow every night thinking about Sharon all alone. Well, not all alone. Sharon was staying with Aunt Martha, Joyce's older sister. Martha lived in a big house across town with her husband Bill and their son Tommy. Martha had always done better than Joyce. Better job, better husband, better life. And boy, did she like to remind Joyce of it. I always knew you'd end up in trouble, Martha had said last time she visited. I told you that job didn't pay enough for all those little extras you kept getting for Sharon. I didn't take that money, Martha, Joyce had said for the 100th time. Martha just gave her that look, the one that said, "Sure you didn't," without saying a word. "How's my baby doing?" Joyce asked instead of arguing. "Sharon's fine. Quiet as a mouse most days. She and Tommy don't get along too good, but that's kids for you." Joyce knew that wasn't right. Sharon got along with everybody. If she and Tommy weren't getting along, something wasn't right. Is she eating? Is she sleeping okay? Does she still have bad dreams? "She's fine, Joyce. I'm not new at raising kids. You know, I've got one of my own, remember? And mine's never had a parent in jail." The word stung like a slap. Today was visiting day. Joyce had been counting the hours. She hadn't seen Sharon for 2 whole weeks, the longest they'd ever been apart. Her hands shook as the guard led her to the visiting room. Would Sharon be scared? Would she cry? Would she understand why Mommy couldn't come home? The visiting room had plastic chairs the color of oranges and tables bolted to the floor. Other women in orange sat with their visitors, some crying, some laughing like they were just at a coffee shop and not in jail. Joyce sat down and waited, her heart beating so hard it hurt. And then there she was, her little girl, wearing the blue dress Joyce had found on sale last Easter. Her hair was in 2 braids, but they were messy and uneven. Martha never could do braids right. Sharon's eyes got big as dinner plates when she saw Joyce in the orange clothes. "Mommy!" Sharon ran to her, and Joyce opened her arms wide. The guard started to say something about no touching, but then just sighed and looked away. Joyce hugged her baby tight, smelling her hair. Strawberry shampoo, the cheap kind from the dollar store that Joyce always bought. At least Martha kept that the same. "I miss you so much, sugar," Joyce whispered, her voice all shaky. "I missed you too, Mommy. When are you coming home? Aunt Martha says you did a bad thing, but I told her you didn't. You wouldn't never steal." Joyce felt tears coming again. "That's right, baby. I didn't take that money. But sometimes grown-ups get things wrong, and they need time to figure out the truth." Sharon pulled back and looked at Joyce with those old soul eyes of hers. "I could tell the judge about my special hands. Maybe he'd believe me then." Joyce's heart nearly stopped. "No, honey, you can't tell anyone about that. Remember our secret? Some people wouldn't understand. They might take you away to doctors and tests and all kind of scary places." "But, Mommy," my hands could help. "I fixed Mrs. Wilson's cat when it got hit by that car. Nobody knew it was me, but it worked. I could fix this too." Joyce took Sharon's little hands in hers. They were warm, just like always when her gift was bubbling close to the surface. "Listen to me real careful, Sharon. You can't use your special gift for this. It's too dangerous. People get scared of things they don't understand, and they might take you away from me for good. Promise me you won't tell anyone, or show anyone what you can do." Sharon looked down at their hands. "But what about you, Mommy? How will you get out of here if I can't help?" "The truth will come out, sugar. It always does. We just got to be patient and brave." Sharon nodded, but Joyce could see she wasn't convinced. Her little girl had that look, the stubborn one that meant she was thinking hard about something. "How's it at Aunt Martha's house? Is she being nice to you?" Joyce asked, changing the subject. "It's okay. Uncle Bill is nice. He brings me ice cream sometimes. Tommy pulls my hair when nobody's looking. And Aunt Martha makes me eat Brussels sprouts. Sharon made a yucky face. Joyce laughed a little. Brussels sprouts are good for you. She doesn't make them like you do, with the butter and the bacon bits. Sharon looked around the visiting room. This place is scary, Mommy. I know, baby, but I'm okay. I'm staying strong for you. Are there bad people in here? There are all kinds of people in here. Some made mistakes. Some got into trouble they didn't mean to, and some, like me, are just waiting for the truth to come out. Sharon nodded like she was taking in every word. I saw the judge today, she said suddenly. Joyce felt her stomach twist up. What? How? I went to the court. I told Aunt Martha I was going to the bathroom at the store, but I went to the big building instead. I saw the judge in his wheelchair. He looked sad, Mommy. Joyce didn't know whether to be proud of her girl's cleverness or scared to death of what she might do. Sharon, you can't be going places without telling Aunt Martha. It's not safe, but I had to see. I had to know who was keeping you locked up. Sharon's little face got all serious. His legs don't work, Mommy. Just like Mrs. Wilson's cat's legs didn't work before I fixed them. Joyce felt cold all over. Sharon, no. You listen to me now. You stay away from that judge. You don't talk to him, and you sure don't try to help him. Promise me. But, Mommy, promise me right now, Sharon Marie Connie. When Joyce used all three names, Sharon knew she meant business. I promise, Mommy, she said, but her eyes didn't meet Joyce's. The guard called out, 5 minutes. Joyce pulled Sharon close again. I love you more than anything in this whole wide world, sugar. You know that, right? Sharon nodded against her shoulder. I love you too, Mommy. I'm going to find a way to bring you home. You just be a good girl for Aunt Martha. That's all I need you to do. When visiting time was over, Joyce watched the little girl walk away, holding Aunt Martha's hand. Martha didn't even look at Joyce, just hurried Sharon along like she might catch jail from the air. Back in her cell, Joyce curled up on her bed and let the tears come. She knew her daughter too well. That promise wasn't going to stick, not when Sharon got an idea in her head. Her little girl was planning something, and with those magic hands of hers, there was no telling what might happen. Please, God, Joyce whispered into her thin pillow, keep my baby safe. And if you got time, maybe help them find who really took that money. I need to get home to my girl before she does something that changes everything. Outside her window, the sun was setting, painting the sky the same orange as her jumpsuit. Another day gone. Another day away from her daughter. Another day for Sharon to get ideas about using her special gift. Joyce closed her eyes, remembering how happy they'd been just 2 weeks ago. Pancakes and braids and lunchbox notes. How fast it had all fallen apart. And how much worse it might get if Sharon decided to show the world what those little hands of hers could really do. Before the accident, Judge Thomas Powell was a different man. He smiled big and laughed loud. He played tennis every Saturday and took his dog Rufus for long walks in the park. His wife, Margaret, used to say he was sunshine in a suit when he walked into a room. He was known as the fair judge, the kind one who believed folks could change if given half a chance. That was 3 years ago, before the rainy night that changed everything. Judge Powell had been driving home from the courthouse. It was pouring rain, the kind that comes down like a waterfall, making it hard to see past your windshield wipers. He was thinking about stopping for flowers for Margaret. It was their anniversary the next day. 25 years of happy marriage deserved roses, he thought. He never saw the truck that ran the red light, never had time to turn the wheel or hit the brakes. There was just a bright flash of headlights, the horrible sound of metal crushing metal, and then darkness. When he woke up in the hospital 3 days later, Margaret was sitting by his bed, her eyes all puffy from crying. The doctor told him straight. His spine was hurt real bad. He'd never walk again. But that wasn't even the worst part. "Where's Margaret?" he'd asked the nurse on the 4th day, when his wife wasn't in her usual chair. The nurse got a funny look on her face. "Judge Powell, your wife was in the car with you." And that's when they told him. Margaret hadn't made it. While he was sleeping those first 3 days, they'd buried his sunshine. The woman he'd seen by his bed was just his mind playing tricks, wanting so bad for her to be there that he'd made her appear. After that, something broke inside Judge Powell that had nothing to do with his spine. He came home to an empty house. No Margaret singing in the kitchen. No Rufus running to greet him. The dog had gone to live with Margaret's sister. A house with stairs was no place for a man in a wheelchair with a big old dog. His days got real quiet. He'd sit by the window in his wheelchair, watching the neighbors walking by. Actually walking, something he'd never do again. He ate TV dinners instead of Margaret's home cooking. He hired a woman named Mrs. Chun to come clean once a week, but she didn't talk much, just did her job and left. Nights were the worst. The bed felt too big, without Margaret's warm body next to his. Sometimes he'd wake up forgetting, reaching for her in the darkness, only to touch cold sheets. Those were the nights he cried until there weren't any tears left. Going back to work was the only thing that kept him from fading away completely. But the Judge Powell who rolled back into that courtroom wasn't the same man who had walked out of it that rainy night. This Judge Powell didn't smile. He didn't believe in second chances anymore. He gave the toughest sentences the law allowed. Cold as winter, the lawyers started saying about him. Hard as stone. Some folks called him No Mercy Powell behind his back. He heard the whispers and didn't care one bit. The world had shown him no mercy. Why should he show any to the world? So when Joyce Connie's case came across his desk, Judge Powell didn't see a hard-working mom who might be innocent. He saw just another criminal, another liar trying to cheat the system. The evidence looked clear enough. She had access to the money. She was there when it went missing, and she couldn't explain the extra things she'd bought for her daughter. Open and shut, he muttered to himself, flipping to the file one evening at his kitchen table. Another greedy person taking what isn't theirs. But then came that day in court when he saw Sharon for the first time. A little slip of a thing with messy braids and shoes that had seen better days. Something about her reminded him of Margaret when they first met, that same determined look, chin up like she was ready to take on the whole world if she had to. When that child looked him in the eyes and said, "Free my mommy and I'll tell you a secret," something stirred inside his cold heart. Not enough to change his mind about her mother. He'd seen too many criminals use their kids to get sympathy, but enough to make him curious. And then that strange feeling in his legs, like little electric butterflies fluttering where there had been nothing but deadness for 3 years. Doc Adams had told him it was normal to have phantom feelings sometimes, but this felt different. It felt real that night. Judge Powell dreamed he was walking on the beach with Margaret. The sand was warm between his toes, the sun bright on his face. Margaret was laughing, her hair blowing in the breeze. "You could walk again, Tommy," she said, using the nickname only she ever called him. "You just need to believe in magic again." He woke up with tears on his face and that tingling still in his legs. For a moment, just a tiny moment, he lifted the blanket and tried to wiggle his toes. Nothing happened, of course, but the tingling was still there. All day at court, he couldn't get Sharon's face out of his mind. "I'll tell you a secret," she'd said. What kind of secret could a little girl have that she thought was worth her mother's freedom? Kids said all sorts of things they didn't mean. Yet something about the way she'd said it. That evening, Judge Powell did something he hadn't done in ages. He called his old friend, Dr. Richardson, who'd been his doctor since before the accident. "Rich, you ever hear people getting feeling back after being told they never would?" Dr. Richardson was quiet for a moment. "It happens, Tom. Rarely, but it happens." "Why? Are you experiencing something?" Judge Powell almost told him about the tingling, about the strange feeling that had started right when that little girl spoke to him. But at the last second, he held back. It sounded crazy, even to his own ears. "Just curious," he said instead. "Saw something on TV." After they hung up, Judge Powell wheeled himself to the bookshelf in his study. Way up high, where he couldn't reach anymore, was a book Margaret had given him years ago. Unexplained Healings and Medical Miracles. She'd been into all that spiritual stuff he used to tease her about. He looked at the high shelf for a long time, then wheeled himself to the kitchen where Mrs. Chun had left a broom. Using the handle, he knocked the book down, wincing as it hit the floor. It took some doing, but he managed to pick it up. All night, he read stories about people who shouldn't have walked again, but did. People who believed in miracles and got them. People who met strangers who changed everything. It all sounded like fairy tales to him, but with each story, the tingling in his legs seemed to get stronger. "You're being a fool, Tom," he told himself, closing the book at 3 a.m. A desperate old fool. But the next morning, he called his clerk. "I'll be taking over the Connie case personally," he said. "Move my other cases around." "But Judge Powell, that's just a simple theft case." "Shouldn't we leave it to Judge Harmon?" his clerk asked, surprised. "I said I'm taking it," he snapped, his voice going cold again. After he hung up, Judge Powell rolled his wheelchair to the window. Outside, the first spring flowers were pushing up to the dirt in what used to be Margaret's garden. She'd have loved seeing them bloom again. "Am I crazy, Maggie?" he whispered to the empty room. "Am I seeing things that aren't there because I want them so bad?" Only silence answered him. Of course. But as he turned his chair away from the window, he caught a whiff of her perfume, just for a second, so quick he might have imagined it, and the tingling in his legs flared up like a struck match. Judge Powell made his decision right then and there. He would look deeper into Joyce Connie's case. Not because he believed she was innocent. He'd seen too much to believe that easy. But because something about her daughter's eyes, about the way she stood there so brave and determined, had woken up a part of him he thought was long dead. The part that still wanted to believe in impossible things. The part that still remembered what it felt like to walk beside Margaret in the sunshine. The part that wondered if a little girl's secret could really change everything. He wheeled himself to his desk and opened Joyce's file again, reading every word careful like this time, not looking for proof she was guilty, but really looking at all the facts. And for the first time in 3 years, Judge Thomas Powell felt something besides coldness in his heart. He felt hope, just a tiny spark, like a match struck in the darkness. But it was there. "All right, little girl," he said to the empty room, "let's see what your secret is really worth." Sharon first found out about her special gift on her 5th birthday. She was playing in the backyard of their old house, the one before they moved to the apartment on Maple Street. It was a sunny day, and Mommy had made a little cake, with pink frosting. Sharon was playing all by herself, while Mommy got things ready for her small party. That's when she saw the baby bird. It had fallen from its nest up in the big oak tree. Its wing was bent all funny, and it was making sad little peeping sounds that broke Sharon's heart. "Poor baby bird," she said, carefully picking it up. The bird was warm, and its little heart was beating real fast against her palm. "Don't be scared. I won't hurt you." Sharon didn't know what made her do it. She just closed her eyes and wished real hard that the bird would get better. Then the strangest thing happened. Her hands got all warm and tingly, like when you put them near a fire on a cold day. The feeling moved from her heart, down her arms and right into her fingers. When she opened her eyes, the baby bird's wing wasn't bent anymore. It blinked at her, gave a happy little chirp, and flew right back up to its nest. Sharon stared at her hands. They looked the same as always, but something was different. Something magical had happened. "Sharon, time for cake. Sugar." Mommy called from the back door. Sharon ran inside, bursting to tell Mommy what had happened. Mommy, I fixed a bird. It was hurt, and I made it all better." Mommy smiled and ruffled her hair. "That's nice, baby. What a big imagination you have." But Sharon knew it wasn't just make-believe. She'd really done it. The bird really flew. After that, Sharon started noticing she could fix other things too. When her friend Lily fell off the swing and scraped her knee real bad, Sharon held her hand over the scrape. The warm, tingly feeling came again, and Lily stopped crying right away. "It doesn't hurt no more," Lily said, looking surprised. The blood was still there, but when they wiped it away, the scrape wasn't as bad as it looked at first. Another time, Mrs. Wilson from next door had a headache, so bad she couldn't get out of bed. Sharon had gone with Mommy to check on her. While Mommy was in the kitchen making tea, Sharon sat beside Mrs. Wilson and put her small hand on the old lady's forehead. "What are you doing, sweetie?" Mrs. Wilson asked. her voice all weak and tired. "Making the hurt go away," Sharon said simply. And she did. By the time Mommy came back with the tea, Mrs. Wilson was sitting up and smiling. "I don't know what happened," Mrs. Wilson told Mommy. "That headache just disappeared." It was after Mrs. Wilson's cat got hit by a car that Mommy started to realize Sharon's gift was real. The cat, a big orange one named Marmalade, had dragged itself to their doorstep all broken and crying. The vet was closed, and Mrs. Wilson was out of town. "Oh, Lord," Mommy had said, "that poor thing won't make it till morning." But Sharon had already scooped up the cat, her little hand stroking its fur. The warm feeling came stronger than ever before. It made her feel a little dizzy, but she kept on petting Marmalade, whispering, "Get better. Kitty, please get better." And right before Mommy's eyes, Marmalade's breathing got easier. His broken leg straightened out some. By morning, he was walking around like nothing ever happened. That's when Mommy sat Sharon down for serious talk. "Baby, what you can do, it's not something everyone can do. It's special, real special." Mommy looked worried, not happy like Sharon thought she'd be. "Isn't it good to help people, Mommy?" "Of course it is, sugar. But some folks, they don't understand special things. They get scared of what they don't understand. They might want to take you to doctors or scientists who'd want to study you. They might even try to take you away from me." Sharon didn't like the sound of that one bit. "I don't want to go away from you, Mommy. That's why we got to keep your gift a secret, okay? Our special secret. You can still help people sometimes, but you got to be careful no one sees how you do it." And that's how it had been ever since. Sharon would help when she could, but always secret-like. Mommy would make sure no one was watching or would explain it away. "Kids heal quick," she'd say. Or, "Must not have been as bad as we thought." Now, staying at Aunt Martha's house was hard. Aunt Martha's house was big and fancy, with white carpets you weren't supposed to step on with shoes, and special towels in the bathroom you weren't supposed to use. Everything had a rule. Don't touch this. Don't play with that. Don't make noise. Don't. And Martha was always saying things like, "Well, I suppose you can't help how you were raised," when Sharon forgot one of the million rules. Or she'd sigh real big and say, "This is why people shouldn't have children they can't properly provide for." Uncle Bill was nicer. He'd sneak Sharon cookies when Aunt Martha wasn't looking and wink at her. "Don't mind Martha," he'd whisper. "She means well, just shows it funny." The worst part was Cousin Tommy. He was 10, 2 years older than Sharon, with mean little eyes like a rat. When grown-ups weren't around, he'd pinch Sharon or pull her hair. "Your mom's a thief," he'd say. "That's why she's in jail. And you're just poor trash living in our house." Sharon wanted to tell him he was wrong, that her mommy never stole nothing. But Mommy had taught her not to fight, so she just walked away. It made Tommy madder when she didn't cry or yell back. One night, Tommy got real sick. He had a high fever and was moaning in his sleep. Aunt Martha was on the phone with the doctor, all worried. Uncle Bill was getting the car, ready to take Tommy to the hospital if he got any worse. Sharon sneaked into Tommy's room. Even though he was mean to her, she didn't want him to hurt. She put her hands on his hot forehead, closed her eyes, and let the warm, tingly feeling flow from her heart to her hands. Tommy's breathing got easier. The redness in his cheeks faded some. By the time Aunt Martha came back upstairs, his fever had gone down. "Well, thank the Lord," Aunt Martha said, feeling his forehead. "The fever broke. We won't need to go to the hospital after all." She never even looked at Sharon. Never wondered how Tommy got better so fast. That was okay with Sharon. She didn't do it to get thanked. She just didn't like seeing people hurting, even mean people like Tommy. The worst times were at night. Sharon had bad dreams about Mommy in jail. In her dreams, Mommy was crying and calling for Sharon, but Sharon couldn't find her. She'd wake up with tears on her face and her pillow all wet. One night, after a really bad dream, Sharon sat by her bedroom window, looking up at the stars. Mommy always said if they both looked at the same stars, it was like they were together even when they were apart. "I'm going to get you out, Mommy," she whispered to the biggest, brightest star. "I don't care what you said about keeping my gift a secret. If my magic hands can help the judge, Then maybe he'll let you come home. She thought about Judge Powell in his wheelchair, his sad eyes and tight, unhappy mouth. She thought about the little spark she felt when their eyes met in the courtroom, like her gift was reaching out to him even from far away. Sharon knew what she had to do, even if Mommy got mad, even if it was scary, even if people didn't believe her at first. She'd use her gift to heal the judge's legs, and in return, he'd have to let Mommy go free. It was a fair trade, wasn't it? She'd help him walk again, and he'd help her get her Mommy back. Sharon looked at her hands in the moonlight. They looked like any little girl's hands, small, with a Band-Aid on one finger where she'd cut it helping Aunt Martha in the kitchen. But she knew they were special. She knew they had magic in them. Magic strong enough to fix a bird's wing or a cat's broken leg. Would they be strong enough to fix a man who hadn't walked in 3 years? There was only one way to find out. "I'm coming, Mommy," she whispered to the night sky. "I'm going to be brave and use my gift. I'm going to make everything better again." Sharon crawled back into bed, but this time she didn't have any more bad dreams. Instead, she dreamed of Mommy coming home, of them making pancakes together in their little kitchen, of everything being just like it was before. And in her dream, Judge Powell was there too, standing tall on his own 2 feet, smiling like he'd found something he thought was gone forever. The big courthouse was made of gray stone that looked like it had been standing there forever. Inside, the courtroom had wooden benches polished so shiny you could almost see your face in them. The ceiling was high, with fancy lights hanging down, and a big American flag stood next to the judge's bench. Sharon had been planning this for days. Aunt Martha thought she was at school, but she had slipped away during recess. It took her 3 different buses to get to the courthouse, and she had to ask strangers for directions twice. But she made it. Her heart was beating real fast as she peeked through the big wooden doors. The room was half full of people, some in fancy suits, some just regular folks there to watch. Sharon spotted her Mommy right away, sitting at a table next to her lawyer. Joyce was wearing an orange jumpsuit that made Sharon's heart hurt. Her Mommy's hair was pulled back neat, but her face looked tired and scared. At another table sat a man with slick black hair and a dark blue suit. He had papers spread out all over, and looked like a cat that was about to eat a mouse. That must be the lawyer trying to keep Mommy in jail, Sharon thought. And there was Judge Powell in his wheelchair behind his big desk up high. He looked grumpy, his bushy eyebrows pushed together like 2 angry caterpillars. His hands rested on the arms of his wheelchair, and he wasn't smiling one bit. Sharon slipped in quiet as a mouse and sat in the very back row. A lady with a big purse gave her a funny look. "Where's your mama, child?" she whispered. Sharon pointed to Joyce. "Right there. I came to help her." The lady's eyes got soft and sad. She patted Sharon's hand and didn't ask any more questions. Up at the front, the man in the blue suit stood up. His voice was loud and mean. "Your Honor, the facts in this case are clear. Joyce Connie had access to the office accounts at Dr. Miller's practice. Money started disappearing 6 months ago. Small amounts at first, then larger sums. The defendant was the only person with access to both the physical cash box and the computer password needed to transfer funds." Sharon didn't understand all the big words, but she knew he was saying mean things about her Mommy. She watched as Joyce's lawyer, a young man with glasses that kept sliding down his nose, shuffled through his papers like he was seeing them for the first time. Furthermore, Blue Suit continued, the defendant started purchasing items beyond her means, new clothing, electronics, and toys for her daughter. When questioned about these purchases, she gave vague answers that couldn't be verified. Judge Powell nodded, looking at Joyce with cold eyes, but then his gaze swept the courtroom and landed right on Sharon. His bushy eyebrows shot up in surprise, and for a second Sharon thought he might call her out. Instead, he just stared at her like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. Sharon gave him a little wave, just wiggling her fingers. The judge didn't wave back, but his mouth twitched like he almost wanted to smile. Joyce's lawyer finally stood up. He dropped some papers, bent to pick them up, and his face turned red as a tomato. "Your Honor, my client maintains her innocence. These purchases mentioned by the prosecution were all either gifts from friends, second-hand items, or purchases made with savings she'd accumulated over time. Ms. Connie is a dedicated single mother with no prior record. He sounded like he was reading from a book, not like he really believed what he was saying. Sharon felt tears stinging her eyes. This man wasn't helping her mommy at all. Judge Powell leaned forward in his wheelchair. Do you have any evidence to support these claims? Receipts? Witnesses who can confirm they gave her these gifts? Joyce's lawyer adjusted his glasses again. Well, Your Honor, we're working on gathering that information. In other words, no. Judge Powell said, his voice sharp as scissors. The mean lawyer smiled like he'd just won a prize. The prosecution calls Dr. Robert Miller to stand. A tall man with silver hair and a fancy suit walked to the front. He put his hand on a Bible and promised to tell the truth. Then he sat in the special chair next to Judge Powell's bench. Dr. Miller, please tell the court about your medical practice and Miss Connie's role there. The mean lawyer said, I run a family practice on Elm Street. I've been there for 20 years. Joyce Connie worked as my receptionist for the past 3 years. Her duties included scheduling appointments, greeting patients, handling co-payments, and basic bookkeeping under my office manager's supervision. And when did you notice money was missing? Dr. Miller frowned. About 6 months ago. Small amounts at first. $50 here, $100 there from the cash box. Then I noticed discrepancies in the computer records. Payments had been entered and then deleted. And who had access to make these changes? Only Joyce and my office manager, Mrs. Hayes. But Mrs. Hayes has been with me for 15 years without incident, and she was on vacation during 2 weeks when money disappeared. The mean lawyer nodded like this proved everything. Did you confront Miss Connie about the missing funds? Not at first. I installed a small camera near the reception desk. That's when I saw Joyce opening the cash box after hours and removing money. A murmur went through the courtroom. Sharon's chest felt tight. That couldn't be true. Her mommy would never steal. We have the security footage to show the court, the mean lawyer said, looking pleased with himself. A TV on wheels was rolled in. The lights were dimmed, and everyone watched as a fuzzy black and white video showed someone at the front desk opening a box and taking something out. The person's back was to the camera, but it looked like they had hair like Mommy's. Sharon squinted hard. Something wasn't right. The person seemed taller than her mommy, and they moved different too. As you can see, the mean lawyer said, the defendant clearly took the money. Joyce's lawyer just sat there, not saying anything. Sharon wanted to scream at him to do something, to say it wasn't Mommy in that video. Judge Powell was watching the video with his eyes narrowed. Then, instead of looking at the screen, he looked over at Sharon again. Their eyes met across the courtroom. Sharon tried to tell her with her eyes that it wasn't true, that her mommy was good and honest. The judge's wheelchair squeaked as he shifted his weight. I'd like to see clearer footage than this before making any judgments, he said, surprising everyone. This could be almost anyone with dark hair. The mean lawyer looked unhappy. We have more evidence, Your Honor. Just then, the big doors at the back of the courtroom opened. A guard came in, helping a woman who was walking real slow. The woman had on the same orange clothes as Mommy, but she looked sick as a dog. Her face was all sweaty and gray-looking. Your Honor, the guard said, this is Meredith Johnson, here to testify as a character witness for the defendant. Joyce half stood at her table, her face worried. Meredith, are you okay? Judge Powell frowned. Is this witness ill? Should she be in the medical ward? The sick woman, Meredith, shook her head. I'm fine, Your Honor. The doctor gave me some medicine this morning. I just need to say my piece about Joyce. She's a good person who helped me when no one else would. Sharon watched as the sick lady made her way to the witness stand. She walked like her whole body hurt, and her hands were shaking bad. Joyce was whispering something to her lawyer, who finally looked concerned. Your Honor, perhaps we should postpone Ms. Johnson's testimony until she's feeling better. I'm okay, Meredith insisted, sitting down heavy in the witness chair. I want to help Joyce like she helped me. Judge Powell didn't look convinced, but he nodded for her to go ahead. Joyce's lawyer stood up, dropping his pen this time. Ms. Johnson, how do you know the defendant? We share a cell at the county jail. I've been there 3 months waiting for my trial. When I got there, I was coming off drugs real bad. The guard didn't care much, but Joyce, she took care of me, held my hair when I got sick, gave me her extra blanket when I had the shakes. She didn't have to do any of that. And in your time with Ms. Connie, has she ever mentioned taking money from her employer? Meredith shook her head hard. Never. She talks about her little girl all the time, how she misses her and wants to get home to her. She says over and over she didn't take that money, and I believe her. Joyce Connie ain't no thief. The mean lawyer stood up. Your Honor, this testimony is hardly relevant. Another inmate's opinion of the defendant doesn't change the evidence against her. Judge Powell raised his hand to quiet him. I'll decide what's relevant in my courtroom, counselor. Sharon felt a little spark of hope. Maybe the judge was starting to believe in Mommy. But then something scary happened. Meredith's eyes rolled back in her head, and she started shaking all over. Her body went stiff. Then she slid right out of the witness chair onto the floor. Meredith. Joyce cried, jumping up from her seat. The courtroom exploded with noise. People stood up to see better. The mean lawyer backed away like he was scared he might catch whatever Meredith had. Joyce's lawyer just stood there, mouth open like a fish. Someone call an ambulance. Judge Powell ordered, wheeling himself from behind his bench. A guard rushed to Meredith, turning her on her side. She's burning up with fever. Joyce tried to go to her friend, but another guard held her back. Please, Joyce begged. Let me help her. Sharon watched it all from her seat in the back. She could feel that special warmth building in her hands. Already, she knew she could help Meredith, fix whatever was wrong with her. But Mommy had made her promise not to show her gift to strangers. Then Sharon looked at Judge Powell. He wasn't watching Meredith on the floor. He was looking right at Sharon, like he knew exactly what she was thinking. It was now or never. If she helped Meredith, everyone would see her gift. They'd know she was special. Maybe they'd take her away like Mommy feared. But maybe, just maybe, it would make Judge Powell believe that Sharon could help him too. And if he believed that, he might let Mommy go free. Sharon slipped from her seat and started walking down the aisle toward all the commotion. People were too busy watching Meredith to notice one small girl making her way to the front of the courtroom. Meredith was making awful choking sounds now. A lady in the front row was crying. The guard was saying something about how the ambulance might not get there in time. Sharon took a deep breath and kept walking. She felt like she was moving through water, everything slow and dreamlike around her. She could see Judge Powell watching her. She could see her Mommy's scared face as Joyce spotted her coming down the aisle. Sharon, what are you doing here? Joyce called out, but Sharon didn't answer. She kept walking straight toward the sick woman on the floor. Her hands were getting warmer and warmer, like they knew what was coming, like they were ready to do their special magic. The whole courtroom seemed to hold its breath as one little girl in a faded blue dress walked up to a dying woman, knelt down beside her, and placed her small hands on the woman's hot forehead. It's okay, Sharon whispered, not to Meredith, but to her Mommy across the room. I gotta show them, Mommy. I gotta make them see. And with that, Sharon closed her eyes and let the magic flow. The courtroom got real quiet as Sharon knelt beside Meredith. Folks were holding their breath, watching this little girl with her hands on the sick woman's forehead. Nobody tried to stop her. It was like everyone was frozen in place, waiting to see what would happen next. Joyce stood up, her face white as a sheet. Sharon, no, she whispered, but it was too late. Sharon closed her eyes tight. She felt the warm, tingly feeling start in her heart, like always. It moved down her arms and into her hands, making them hot as a summer sidewalk. This time it was stronger than ever before. So strong it made her whole body shake a little. Meredith was real sick. Sharon could feel it. Something bad was growing inside her, making her blood hot and her breathing shallow. Sharon pushed the warm feeling harder, imagining it washing away all the sickness like rain washing dirt off a window. Get better, Sharon whispered. Please get better. Everyone in the courtroom saw it happen. Sharon's little hands started glowing. Not bright like a light bulb, but soft like the inside of a firefly. The glow spread from her fingers onto Meredith's skin, moving down her neck and across her chest, like water soaking into dry earth. Meredith's breathing changed first. The awful choking sound stopped. Then the color came back to her face, the sickly gray turning to pink. Her body relaxed, the painful stiffness melting away. Her eyes fluttered open, confused but clear. What happened?" Meredith asked, her voice stronger than it had been all day. Sharon opened her eyes and smiled down at her. "You're all better now," she said simply. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved or spoke. Then the courtroom exploded. "Did you see that? The child healed her. It's a miracle." "That ain't possible." "Lord have mercy." People jumped to their feet. Some were pointing. Some were crossing themselves like in church. A woman in the back fainted dead away. The guard who had been helping Meredith stumbled backward, his eyes big as dinner plates. Judge Powell sat in his wheelchair, gripping the arm so tight his knuckles turned white. He'd seen it plain as day. The glow, the healing, the miracle right before his eyes. His legs were tingling something fierce now, like 1,000 tiny needles poking him all at once. Joyce pushed past the guard and ran to Sharon, wrapping her arms around her daughter. "Oh, baby, what did you do?" she cried, rocking Sharon back and forth. "What did you do?" Sharon looked up at her mommy with big, serious eyes. "I had to help, Mommy. I had to show them I can really do it." The mean lawyer in the blue suit found his voice first. "This is some kind of trick. A distraction, take focus off the defendant's crimes." Joyce's lawyer just stood there with his mouth hanging open. His glasses slipped all the way down to the tip of his nose. Meredith sat up by herself, touching her face like she couldn't believe what she was feeling. "The pain is gone," she said, wonder in her voice. "My fever, it's gone too." Judge Powell finally found his voice. It came out rough, like he had a frog in his throat. "Order. I will have order in my courtroom." He banged his little wooden hammer, but folks were too excited to quiet down right away. It took 3 more bangs before people started settling back in their seats, still whispering and pointing at Sharon. "Young lady," Judge Powell said, looking straight at Sharon. "Come here." Joyce tightened her grip on Sharon. "Your Honor, please." "It's okay, Mommy," Sharon said, patting her mother's hand. "I want to talk to the judge." Sharon walked right up to Judge Powell's bench, her head held high. Up close, she could see every line on his face, the gray in his bushy eyebrows, the surprise and wonder in his eyes. "What did you just do to Miss Johnson?" the judge asked, his voice quiet so only Sharon could hear. "I fixed her," Sharon said simply. "She had bad germs inside, making her real sick. I pushed them out with my special hands." Judge Powell leaned forward in his wheelchair. "And how long have you been able to fix people?" "Since I was 5. First it was just a bird with a broken wing. Then I fixed my friend's knee when she fell at school. And Mrs. Wilson's cat, when it got hit by a car." Sharon looked at her hands. "I can feel what's wrong inside people. It's like my hands can see things doctors can't see." The judge's eyes got soft, not hard and cold like before. "That's why you said you had a secret. This is what you meant." Sharon nodded. "I can fix your legs, too," she whispered, "if you let my mommy go home." "She didn't take that money, Judge. She really didn't." Before Judge Powell could answer, the courtroom doors burst open. 2 paramedics rushed in with a stretcher, followed by a doctor in a white coat. "Where's the emergency?" the doctor called out. People started talking all at once again. The prisoner was dying a minute ago. The little girl healed her with her hands. You should have seen it, Doc. Her hands were glowing. The doctor looked confused. He went to Meredith, who was now standing up on her own, looking better than she had all day. This woman was reported to be having a seizure with high fever, the doctor said, checking Meredith's pulse. "I was Doc," Meredith said. "Felt like I was burning up from the inside. Couldn't breathe right. Then this angel child put her hands on me, and the sickness just went away." The doctor frowned and took out his thermometer. He checked Meredith's temperature, listened to her heart, looked in her eyes. "Her vitals are completely normal," he said, sounding confused. "Are you sure this woman was ill?" "See for yourself," Judge Powell said, pointing to the bailiff. "Harrison, show the doctor's security footage. The cameras record everything in this courtroom." The bailiff nodded and led the doctor to a small room off to the side where the security monitors were kept. Joyce was crying now, holding Sharon tight again. "You don't understand what you've done, baby. They'll take you away. They'll do tests on you. This is exactly what I was afraid of. But now they know I'm telling the truth, Mommy," Sharon said. "Now they know I can really help the judge." Judge Powell cleared his throat. "This court will take a 1-hour recess while we sort the situation out. Ms. Connie will remain in custody. The child—" He paused, looking at Sharon with something like wonder in his eyes. "The child will be placed in the care of court services until we determine next steps." "No," Joyce cried. "You can't take her from me. It's just temporary, Miss Connie," Judge Powell said, his voice softer than anyone had heard it in years. "No harm will come to your daughter. You have my word." As the guards led Joyce away, she kept looking back at Sharon, her eyes full of fear. "Remember what I taught you, baby. Be careful." Sharon stood alone in the middle of the courtroom, suddenly looking very small and very brave. Judge Powell wheeled himself from behind the bench down the small ramp to where she stood. "Don't be afraid," he said quietly. "I won't let anyone hurt you." Sharon looked up at him with those wise old eyes in her young face. "I'm not afraid, Judge. Are your legs still tingling?" Judge Powell looked startled. "How did you know that?" "I can feel it," Sharon said. "It means they're waking up. They ain't dead, just sleeping." Before Judge Powell could answer, a kind-looking lady in a blue suit came and took Sharon's hand. "Come with me, sweetheart. We're going to get you some lunch while the grown-ups figure things out." As Sharon was led away, she looked back at Judge Powell one more time. "Remember our deal," she called. "I help you, you help my mommy." Outside the courthouse, news people were gathering like ants at a picnic. Word had spread fast about the little miracle worker in courtroom C. TV vans with big satellite dishes on top lined the street. Reporters with microphones and cameras pushed to get closer to the doors. Sources said child healed a dying prisoner right in open court. Judge Powell witnessed the whole thing. The girl claimed she can heal the disabled judge, too. Inside, Judge Powell had retreated to his chambers, a fancy office with lots of law books and a big leather chair. He sat in his wheelchair by the window, watching the circus forming outside. His legs were still tingling something awful, worse than they had in 3 years. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. "Dr. Richardson? It's Tom Powell. I need you to come to my chambers right away. Something unusual has happened." When he hung up, Judge Powell wheeled himself to his bookshelf. This time, he didn't need a broom to reach the book about healing miracles. He'd brought it from home that morning. Not sure why he felt the need to have it close by. He flipped through the pages until he found the chapter on healing touch. There were stories from all over the world. A woman in the Philippines who could draw out cancer with her fingers, a boy in Mexico who cured blindness with a touch, an old man in India who healed broken bones by holding them. None of the stories mentioned glowing hands, though. What Sharon had done seemed beyond even these miraculous accounts. Dr. Richardson arrived 30 minutes later, looking worried. He'd been Judge Powell's doctor since before the accident, and they'd been friends even longer. "What's this all about, Tom? Your secretary said it was urgent." Judge Powell handed him a tablet showing the security footage from the courtroom. Dr. Richardson watched in silence, his face changing from skepticism to amazement. "This can't be real," he said when the video ended. "I saw it with my own eyes, Rich. The prisoner was dying. High fever, seizures. Then this child touched her, and she was completely healed. The emergency doctor confirmed it. There must be a medical explanation. Perhaps the woman wasn't as ill as she appeared. Perhaps." "I know what I saw," Judge Powell interrupted. "And there's something else." He hesitated, then continued. "My legs, Rich. I can feel them." Dr. Richardson stared at him. "What do you mean, feel them?" "Tingling pins and needles. It started when I first saw the girl yesterday, and it's gotten stronger since. Right now, it feels like my legs are on fire from the inside. Tom, You know phantom sensations are common with spinal injuries. This is different. It started when she looked at me. And just now, when she healed that woman, the feeling got so strong I almost fell out of my chair. Dr. Richardson frowned and knelt down. He pulled out a small pin from his pocket. Let me check something. Without warning, he pricked Judge Powell's leg through his pants. Judge Powell jumped. Ouch! I felt that. Dr. Richardson's face went pale. That shouldn't be possible, Tom. Your injury, the damage was permanent. Judge Powell grabbed his friend's arm. What if it wasn't? What if this child really has a gift? You saw the video. You saw what she did for that prisoner. I need to examine you properly. And I'd like to examine this child as well. No, Judge Powell said firmly. No examinations, no tests. Not yet. The mother is terrified we'll take her daughter away for experiments. I promised no harm would come to her. Dr. Richardson stood up, looking troubled. This goes against everything I know about medicine, Tom. Maybe there are things beyond what medicine knows. Judge Powell said quietly, I need to think about this. After Dr. Richardson left, Judge Powell sat alone in his office for a long time. Outside, the news vans were multiplying. His phone rang constantly, but he didn't answer it. Instead, he wheeled himself back to the window and looked out at the bright afternoon sun. For the first time in 3 years, he let himself remember how it felt to walk in the sunshine, to feel the ground solid beneath his feet. Margaret, he whispered to his wife's memory, what would you think of all this? Would you tell me to believe in miracles again? As if in answer, the tingling in his legs surged, making him gasp. For just a second, he thought he felt his toe move inside his shoe. Just a tiny wiggle, but enough to bring tears to his eyes. He touched his phone, looking at Sharon's case file on his computer screen. A poor girl with a jailed mother and a gift nobody could explain. Our deal, he whispered, remembering her words. I help you, you help my mommy. Could it really be that simple? And more importantly, could he be the judge who threw away the rule book for the chance to walk again? Judge Powell closed his eyes, feeling the tingling spread through his legs like hope coming back to life. The next day, the courthouse was packed full as can be. Folks were lined up outside, hoping to get a seat to see the little miracle girl. News people were everywhere with their cameras and microphones, trying to talk to anybody coming in or out. Is it true a child healed someone in open court? Has Judge Powell commented on what he saw? Where's the girl with the healing hands now? Inside, the courtroom was buzzing like a beehive. Everyone was talking about what they'd seen or heard. Sharon sat in the front row this time, next to a nice lady from Child Services named Miss Taylor. She had stayed at Miss Taylor's house overnight, in a pretty room with flowered wallpaper. Miss Taylor was kind and made chocolate chip pancakes for breakfast, but she wasn't Mommy. Joyce was brought in wearing her orange jumpsuit, her hands cuffed in front. When she saw Sharon, her face lit up like Christmas morning. There's my baby, she said, her voice all shaky. Sharon wanted to run to her, but Miss Taylor held her hand gentle-like. You can talk to your mommy later. Honey, the judge is coming now. Everyone stood up as Judge Powell wheeled himself in. He looked different today, like maybe he'd gotten some good sleep for the first time in forever. His eyes weren't so tired, and he didn't frown quite so much. Be seated, he said, and everyone sat down quick. The mean lawyer in the blue suit stood up first. Your Honor, in light of yesterday's unusual events, the prosecution requests a medical examination of the minor child, Sharon Connie. We believe what the court witnessed was some form of trick or illusion. Joyce's lawyer jumped up so fast his glasses nearly fell off. For once, he looked like he knew what he was doing. Objection, Your Honor. The child is not on trial here. What she did or didn't do has no bearing on my client's case. Judge Powell raised his hand. I'll remind both counselors that I decide what's relevant in my courtroom. He looked at Sharon, his eyes softer than before. No medical examinations will be ordered at this time. The mean lawyer's face turned red. But Your Honor, however, Judge Powell continued, I have asked Dr. James Linden, Chief of Medicine at County General, to address the court regarding the condition of Meredith Johnson, the witness who collapsed yesterday. A tall man with white hair and a kind face stood up from the second row. He walked to the front, carrying a folder full of papers. "Dr. Linden, please tell the court about Ms. Johnson's condition," Judge Powell said. "Yes, Your Honor. I examined Ms. Johnson yesterday immediately following the incident in court. She had been diagnosed 3 days ago with a severe bacterial infection that had entered her bloodstream. She was on antibiotics, but her condition had been worsening." Dr. Linden opened his folder. Her temperature yesterday morning was 104.2. She was experiencing organ failure and would likely have died without immediate intensive care. The courtroom was quiet as a mouse now, everyone leaning forward to hear better. When I examined her after the incident, her temperature was normal at 98.6. Her blood test showed no sign of infection. Her organ function had returned to normal. In my 30 years of medical practice, I have never seen such a rapid recovery. Dr. Linden looked right at Sharon. It defies medical explanation. Folks started whispering again, some pointing at Sharon, who tried to make herself small in her seat. "Are you suggesting, Dr. Linden, that the child somehow cured Ms. Johnson?" Judge Powell asked. The doctor adjusted his glasses. "I am a man of science, Your Honor. I don't believe in miracles. But I cannot explain what happened to my patient. The security footage clearly shows a child touching Ms. Johnson, and immediately afterward, a critically ill woman became completely well." He closed his folder. "Make of that what you will." After Dr. Linden sat down, Judge Powell looked at Joyce's lawyer. "Counselor, is your client prepared to testify today?" The young lawyer nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." Joyce was led to the witness stand. She put her hand on the Bible and promised to tell the truth. Then she sat down, looking scared but determined. "Ms. Connie," her lawyer began, "did you take any money from Dr. Miller's office?" "No, sir, I did not," Joyce said, her voice clear and strong. "Not one penny that wasn't mine." "Then how do you explain the security footage showing someone taking money from the cash box?" Joyce took a deep breath. "That wasn't me in that video. I know it looks like me from the back, but it wasn't. I never touched that money." "What about the new items the prosecution mentioned? The shoes, the television?" "The shoes came from the church donation box. Pastor Williams told me they had Sharon's size and said I should take them. The TV was a gift from our neighbor, Mr. Wilson, when he moved to Florida. He didn't want to take it with him." Joyce's eyes filled with tears. "I know how it looks. I know I can't prove these things. But I work hard at that office. I was saving up to take Sharon to the beach next summer. Why would I throw everything away by stealing?" The mean lawyer stood up for his turn. Perhaps because the money was too tempting? A single mother, struggling to make ends meet. "I was managing just fine," Joyce said, her chin up proud. "We didn't have much, but we had enough. I taught my daughter that stealing is wrong, no matter what. I wouldn't go against that, not ever. Yet we have video evidence. That shows someone's back, not their face." Joyce's voice got louder. "That could be anyone with dark hair." "Miss Connie, control yourself," Judge Powell said, but his voice wasn't mean. Joyce wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "I'm sorry, Your Honor. It's just, I miss my daughter. I miss our life. And I didn't do what they're saying I did." Sharon couldn't take it anymore. She stood up, pulling her hand from Miss Taylor's. "My mommy didn't steal nothing. She's a good mommy." "Sharon, please sit down," Miss Taylor whispered, trying to tug her back to her seat. But Sharon was looking straight at Judge Powell. "I need to talk to you, Judge. Just you. I got something important to tell you about my mommy's case." The courtroom got quiet again. Judge Powell looked at Sharon for a long moment, then at Joyce, who looked scared to death. "Your Honor," the mean lawyer said, "this is highly irregular. The child can't just demand." "The child has a name, Counselor," Judge Powell interrupted. "And given the extraordinary circumstances, I'm inclined to hear what she has to say." He looked at his watch. "This court will recess for lunch. We'll resume at 2:00. As people started getting up and talking again, Judge Powell called to the bailiff. "Harrison, Please escort Miss Connie back to holding and bring her daughter to my chambers in 15 minutes. Miss Taylor from Child Services should accompany her. The bailiff nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Sharon watched as her mommy was led away. Joyce looked back over her shoulder, her eyes worried. Be careful, sugar, she called. Judge Powell sat in his office, his hands folded on his desk. His mind was racing something fierce. What was he doing, agreeing to meet with a child witness? It went against every rule in the book. If the prosecutors found out, they could cause all kinds of trouble. But those hands, those glowing hands, had healed a dying woman right before his eyes. And the tingling in his legs that got stronger every time Sharon was near. There was a knock on his door. Come in, he called. Harrison the bailiff opened the door. The child and Miss Taylor are here, Judge. Send them in. Sharon came in first. Her little legs carried her straight to Judge Powell's desk without a bit of fear. Miss Taylor followed, looking nervous. Your Honor, I must state for the record that this meeting is highly unusual, Miss Taylor said. Noted, Judge Powell said. Please have a seat, both of you. Sharon climbed into the big leather chair across from his desk, her feet dangling above the floor. She looked around the fancy office with wide eyes. You got a lot of books, she said. Judge Powell almost smiled. Yes, I do. Do any of them tell about people like me? With special hands. The judge glanced at the miracle healing book hidden in his desk drawer. A few might. Miss Taylor cleared her throat. Your Honor, what exactly is the purpose of this meeting? Judge Powell looked at Sharon. This young lady requested it. She said she has something to tell me about her mother's case. He turned back to Sharon. Is that right? Sharon nodded, her face serious as could be. Yes, sir. But first I got a question. Did you feel your legs tingle when I helped that sick lady yesterday? Miss Taylor gasped. Sharon, that's not inappropriate. It's all right, Judge Powell said, raising his hand. He looked straight at Sharon. Yes, I did. How did you know? 'Cause I felt it too. My special powers were reaching out to you, even though I was helping Meredith. That means you can be healed. Sharon leaned forward. Your legs ain't dead, Judge. They're just sleeping real deep. Judge Powell's heart was beating fast as a racehorse. Sharon, what exactly is your gift? How does it work? Sharon looked down at her hands. I don't know exactly. It started when I was little. I just feel what's wrong inside people, or animals. Then I push the good energy from my heart into my hands, and into them. It makes the bad stuff go away. She looked up. I fixed a bird with a broken wing, and Mrs. Wilson's cat after it got hit by a car. I help people too, but Mommy always said to be careful no one sees. Because people might not understand? Sharon nodded. They might take me away to do tests and stuff, or think I'm weird. Judge Powell wheeled himself around his desk until he was right in front of Sharon. And you think you could help me? Help me walk again? I know I can, Sharon said simply, but it might take more than once. Your legs have been sleeping a real long time. Miss Taylor looked uncomfortable. Your Honor, this conversation is. Miss Taylor, Judge Powell interrupted. Would you mind stepping outside for a moment? I'd like to speak with Sharon alone. I'm afraid that's against protocol, sir. I can't leave a minor child alone with. It's okay, Sharon said. The judge won't hurt me. He's a good man. He just forgot it for a while after his wife died. Judge Powell felt like someone had punched him in the chest. How did you know about my wife? Sharon's eyes got sad. I can feel that too sometimes. The hurt inside people's hearts. Yours has a big empty space where she used to be. Miss Taylor looked between them, clearly torn between following rules and the strange connection she was witnessing. I'll be just outside the door, she finally said. Leave it open a crack, please. After she left, Judge Powell and Sharon just looked at each other for a long moment. Sharon, he finally said, his voice quiet. What did you want to tell me about your mother's case? My mommy didn't take that money, Sharon said firmly. I know who did. I saw him. Judge Powell's eyebrows shot up. You saw someone take the money? Who? Dr. Miller's son. The one who's always needing money for gambling. He comes to the office sometimes when everyone's gone home, but Mommy and me went back one night 'cause she forgot her sweater. We saw him take money from the box, but he didn't see us. Mommy said we should just leave and not tell nobody, 'cause Dr. Miller loves his son so much, and she didn't want to cause trouble. Judge Powell leaned back in his wheelchair. Why didn't your mother tell her lawyer this? She doesn't know I saw. We left real quick, and she thought I was playing with toys in the waiting room. And now she's scared that if she says bad stuff about Dr. Miller's son, they'll just think she's making up lies to save herself. Judge Powell nodded slowly. It made sense, and it was something he could investigate. Thank you for telling me this, Sharon. I'll look into it. Sharon leaned forward, her face hopeful. So, will you help my mommy now? Will you let her come home? I can't just let her go based on what you've told me. I need evidence. But I promise I will find out the truth. Sharon's little face fell. But I need my mommy now, and she needs me. Judge Powell felt his heart twist in his chest. I understand that, but I have to follow the law, even while I search for the truth. Sharon looked at him for a long time with those old, wise eyes in her young face. Then she slid off the big chair and walked around to his side of the desk. I understand, too, she said quietly. So let's make a deal. I'll help your legs right now, just a little bit, so you know I can do it. Then you help find the truth about my mommy. And when she gets to come home, I'll fix your legs all the way. Deal. Judge Powell knew he should say no. Knew he should end this strange meeting right now. But the tingling in his legs was stronger than ever with Sharon standing so close. Deal, he whispered, hardly believing his own voice. Sharon nodded like they'd just signed a proper contract. She put her small hands on his knees. Even through his pants, he could feel the warmth spreading for her fingers. Close your eyes, she said. Think about walking on the beach with your wife. That's a happy memory for you. Judge Powell closed his eyes, surprised at how easily Margaret's face came to him. The warm sand, her laugh, the sun on their faces. Sharon's hands got hot as coals, but they didn't burn. The warmth spread through his legs like honey, slow and sweet. The tingling turned to buzzing, then to something else. An ache, but a good ache, like muscles waking up. Try to wiggle your toes, Sharon whispered. Judge Powell focused hard, thinking of his toes moving. For 3 years, nothing had happened when he tried this. But now, his big toe moved. Just a tiny bit, but it definitely moved. His eyes flew open, meeting Sharon's steady gaze. See, she said with a smile. I told you they were just sleeping. Judge Powell sat in his office late that night, staring at the wiggling toe of his right foot. Just a tiny movement, but it was the first movement in 3 years. His heart felt like it might burst right out of his chest. Margaret, he whispered to the empty room, you wouldn't believe what happened today. But there was no time to wonder about his toe. He had a promise to keep to a little girl with magic in her hands. Judge Powell picked up his phone and dialed a number. Detective Morris? This is Judge Powell. I need you to look into something for me. Quietly. Detective Sarah Morris had been on the police force for 20 years. She was good at finding things other folks missed. And she owed Judge Powell a favor from way back. I need you to investigate Dr. Robert Miller and his son, Kevin Miller. The son has a gambling problem. I want to know if he's been to his father's office after hours. And I want to know if the doctor is having money troubles. This about the Connie case? Detective Morris asked. Yes. I have reason to believe we might have the wrong person. I'll get right on it, Judge. But why the sudden interest in a simple theft case? Judge Powell looked down at his toe, which gave another small wiggle. Let's just say a little bird told me to look deeper. The next morning, court started up again at 9 o'clock sharp. Everyone was back. The mean lawyer in the blue suit, Joyce's young lawyer with the slipping glasses, and all the folks who wanted to see the miracle girl again. Sharon sat in the front row next to Miss Taylor, wearing a clean dress that Miss Taylor had bought for her. Joyce was brought in wearing her orange jumpsuit, but she looked different today, like maybe she had a bit of hope in her eyes. Judge Powell rolled in last, his black robe crisp and neat. His eyes found Sharon right away. She gave him a little smile, and he almost smiled back. Before we continue with witness testimony, Judge Powell said, I have some new information for the court. Last night, I ordered a further investigation into the theft at Dr. Miller's office. The mean lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. The prosecution wasn't informed. Sit down, Mr. Daniels, Judge Powell said, his voice sharp as a tack. As judge, I have the authority to order additional investigation if I believe it serves the interests of justice. Mr. Daniels sat down, his face all red and puffy. Detective Sarah Morris will present her findings. Judge Powell continued. Detective, please approach the bench. Detective Morris walked in from the back of the courtroom. She was a tall lady with short gray hair and eyes that didn't miss a thing. She carried a big folder and a small laptop computer. Detective Morris, please tell the court what you discovered. Judge Powell said. Detective Morris opened her folder. Yes, Your Honor. At your request, I investigated the financial situations of both Dr. Robert Miller and his son, Kevin Miller. I discovered that Kevin Miller has lost over $50,000 gambling in the past year. He had been making large cash payments to several known bookies in the area. The courtroom got real quiet. Dr. Miller, sitting in the second row, turned white as a sheet. Furthermore, Detective Morris continued, I obtained the security footage from the building where Dr. Miller's office is located. The office camera only shows the reception desk from behind, but the building's main entrance camera shows everyone coming and going. She opened her laptop and turned it so everyone could see. This footage shows Kevin Miller entering the building on 6 different evenings when money later went missing from the office. He used his father's key card to get in. Dr. Miller stood up, his face all twisted with emotion. This can't be right. Kevin wouldn't. Dr. Miller, please be seated. Judge Powell said, you'll have a chance to speak. Detective Morris wasn't done. Most importantly, I examined the security footage from the night the largest amount went missing, $3,000. The office camera shows someone who appears to be Ms. Connie taking money from the cash box. However, the building's main entrance camera shows that Ms. Connie had left the building 2 hours earlier. She pressed a button on her laptop, and the screen showed Joyce leaving the building at 6:17 p.m., holding little Sharon's hand. The money was taken at 8:23 p.m. Ms. Connie couldn't have been in 2 places at once. Joyce's lawyer was suddenly wide awake. He jumped to his feet. Your Honor, this is clear evidence that my client is innocent. Judge Powell nodded. Detective, is there more? Yes, Your Honor. I interviewed the building's night security guard. He confirmed that Kevin Miller often came to his father's office after hours. And when I showed him photos, he positively identified Kevin Miller as being in the building on all the nights when money disappeared. Dr. Miller's face crumpled like an old paper bag. He sat down hard, putting his head in his hands. Detective Morris had one more bomb to drop. Finally, I obtained a warrant to examine Kevin Miller's apartment. I found this. She held up a dark brown wig. The person in the office security footage appears to have dark hair like Ms. Connie. Kevin Miller has blonde hair. This wig was found hidden in his closet, along with a woman's jacket similar to ones Ms. Connie wears to work. The courtroom exploded with talk. Joyce put her hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Sharon bounced in her seat, grabbing Miss Taylor's arm. See? I told you. I told you Mommy didn't do it. Judge Powell banged his gavel. Order. I will have order in my court. When everyone quieted down, Judge Powell looked at the prosecutor. Mr. Daniels, in light of this evidence, does the state wish to continue its case against Joyce Connie? The mean lawyer stood up slow, like his legs were made of lead. Your Honor, the state requests time to review this new evidence and possibly amend the charges. Request denied. Judge Powell said, his voice hard. Detective Morris has provided clear evidence that Ms. Connie could not have committed the theft. Do you have any evidence to contradict Detective Morris's findings? No, Your Honor, but... Then I have no choice but to dismiss all charges against Joyce Connie. Judge Powell turned to Joyce. Ms. Connie, you are free to go. The court apologizes for the injustice you have suffered. Joyce couldn't speak. She just cried, her shoulders shaking with big sobs. Judge Powell wasn't done yet. "Bailiff, please take Dr. Robert Miller into custody for questioning and issue an arrest warrant for Kevin Miller on charges of theft and fraud." Dr. Miller stood up, his face a mass of shame. "Your Honor, please. My son has a problem. He needs help, not jail." Judge Powell's face softened just a bit. "Dr. Miller, I understand your concern for your son, but he committed a crime and allowed an innocent woman to take the blame. That cannot go unpunished." As the bailiff led Dr. Miller away, Judge Powell turned to Joyce again. "Ms. Connie, you are entitled to compensation for your wrongful imprisonment. The court will see that you receive it. Additionally, your job at the medical office should be returned to you, if you wish it." Joyce finally found her voice. "Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you so much." Judge Powell nodded. "You have your daughter to thank. Her faith in you never wavered." Sharon couldn't contain herself any longer. She broke away from Miss Taylor and ran straight to her mommy. Joyce knelt down, her arms wide open, and Sharon flew into them like a little bird going home to its nest. "Mommy, Mommy, you're coming home." Joyce hugged her baby tight, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes, sugar, I'm coming home. We're going to be together again." Everyone in the courtroom was watching, some with tears in their eyes. Even the mean lawyer, Mr. Daniels, looked a little touched. Judge Powell watched too, his heart filling up with something he hadn't felt in a long time, the joy of doing real justice. And as he watched mother and daughter holding each other like they'd never let go, he felt something else too. The tingling in his legs was stronger than ever, moving up past his knees now. He tried wiggling his toes again, hidden under his desk where no one could see. This time, all 5 toes on his right foot moved. Just little twitches, but real movements. And for the first time, he felt a faint sensation in his left foot too. Sharon looked up from her mommy's arms, her eyes finding Judge Powell's across the courtroom. She smiled at him, a knowing smile that said she could feel what was happening to him. She gave him a little thumbs up, and Judge Powell had to bite his lip to keep from grinning back at her. "This court is adjourned," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "Ms. Connie, you'll need to fill out some paperwork before you can leave. Officer Jenkins will help you." As people started filing out, talking excitedly about what they'd just seen, Joyce held Sharon's face in her hands. "How did this happen, baby? Did you use your gift on the judge?" Sharon shook her head. "Not the way you're thinking, Mommy. I just told him the truth about Dr. Miller's son. I saw him that night we went back for your sweater, remember? I saw him taking money. But I didn't tell you because I was playing with the toys and wasn't supposed to be looking around." Joyce looked surprised, then laughed through her tears. "Oh, sugar, all this time I thought you didn't see nothing. If only you told me. Would you have told on him?" Joyce thought for a moment. "I don't know. Dr. Miller was always good to me. It would have been hard to tell on his son." Sharon hugged her mommy again. "It don't matter now. You're free. Can we go home tonight?" "Yes, baby. As soon as we sign those papers, we're going straight home." Later that day, Judge Powell sat in his office, looking at the setting sun through his window. It had been a day like no other in his 20 years on the bench. Justice had been done. Real justice, not just following the letter of the law. Detective Morris knocked on his door, then came in with another folder. "Thought you want to see this, Tom. We've got Kevin Miller in custody. He confessed to everything once we showed him the evidence. Said he was desperate to pay off his gambling debts and thought his father would cover the losses if they were discovered. And Dr. Miller? Devastated but cooperative. He's already agreed to make full restitution to Joyce Connie. Lost wages, emotional distress, the works." Judge Powell nodded. "Good. She deserves that and more." Detective Morris tilted her head, studying him. "You seem different today, Tom. More like your old self." Judge Powell almost told her about his wiggling toes, about the strange warm feeling still flowing through his legs. But some things were too precious, too miraculous to share just yet. "Let's just say I was reminded of why I became a judge in the first place," he said instead. "To find the truth and do what's right. After Detective Morris left, Judge Powell wheeled himself to his private bathroom. He locked the door, then slowly pushed himself up to a standing position, holding on to the sink for support. His legs trembled something fierce, weak as a newborn colt's, but they held his weight for 3 glorious seconds before he had to sink back into his chair. 3 seconds of standing on his own 2 feet. Judge Powell looked at himself in the mirror, seeing something he hadn't seen in 3 long years, hope shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Sharon," he whispered. Outside, as the sun set over the courthouse, Joyce and Sharon walked hand in hand down the steps. They were going home at last. And somewhere up above, Judge Powell watched them from his window, feeling life flowing back into his broken body, one tingling, miraculous inch at a time. News about the Connie case spread through town like wildfire. Seems like everyone wanted to see how it would all end. By 9 o'clock on that Friday morning, the courthouse was so full that folks were standing along the walls. News people with cameras crowded outside, hoping to get pictures of the little miracle girl and her mommy. Joyce wore real clothes today, not that awful orange jumpsuit. The court had let her change into a simple blue dress that Miss Taylor had brought for her. Her hair was brush neat, and she had a little bit of color in her cheeks. She looked like a regular mommy again, not a prisoner. Sharon sat beside her at the table, wearing her prettiest dress, the one with yellow flowers that used to be saved for Sundays. She couldn't stop touching her mommy's arm, like she needed to make sure Joyce was really there. The mean lawyer, Mr. Daniels, wasn't looking so mean today. He sat at his table with his papers all messy, not meeting anyone's eyes. Word was that his bosses weren't happy about him trying to keep an innocent woman in jail. Kevin Miller was there too, looking like a scared rabbit. He sat between 2 police officers, his blonde hair a mess and his fancy clothes all wrinkled from a night in jail. His daddy, Dr. Miller, sat right behind him, his face sad and tired. When Judge Powell rolled into the courtroom, everyone stood up. Sharon thought he looked different today, taller somehow, even in his wheelchair. His eyes weren't so cold and sad. They had a spark in them, like Christmas lights just turned on. "Be seated," Judge Powell said, and everyone sat down with a big shuffling noise. The judge looked around the packed courtroom. "This hearing is to formalize the dismissal of all charges against Joyce Connie and to address the charges against Kevin Miller. Before we proceed, I have something to say." The room got quiet as a church. Judge Powell's voice was strong and clear. "Our justice system is meant to find truth and protect the innocent. Sometimes we fail. Ms. Connie spent weeks in jail for a crime she did not commit, separated from her young daughter. This is a grave injustice." Joyce wiped a tear from her cheek. Sharon held her hand tight. "It took the faith of a child," Judge Powell continued, looking right at Sharon, "to make us look deeper, to seek the real truth. That is a lesson we would all do well to remember." He turned to Joyce. "Miss Connie, please rise." Joyce stood up, her legs a little shaky. "Joyce Connie, all charges against you are hereby dismissed. Your record will be expunged. That means cleared completely. You are entitled to full compensation for your wrongful imprisonment, which Dr. Miller has already agreed to provide. You are free to go. With the court's sincere apology." Joyce couldn't help it. She started crying right there, big happy tears rolling down her face. "Thank you, Your Honor," she whispered. "Thank you for believing us." Judge Powell nodded, then turned to Kevin Miller. "Mr. Miller, please rise." Kevin stood up slowly, looking at the floor. "Kevin Miller, you are charged with grand theft, fraud, and allowing an innocent person to be imprisoned for your crimes. How do you plead?" Kevin's voice was barely a whisper. "Guilty, Your Honor." His daddy put his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Judge Powell looked at Kevin for a long time. "The easy thing would be to send you to prison for many years. But I don't think that would serve justice in this case." Kevin looked up, surprise on his face. "You will serve 6 months in the county jail, followed by 5 years of probation. You will repay every penny you stole. You will receive treatment for your gambling addiction. And you will perform 1,000 hours of community service, specifically helping families of incarcerated individuals." Judge Powell leaned forward in his wheelchair. "You know what it's like to make a terrible mistake, Mr. Miller. Now you'll learn what it's like to help those who suffer because of such mistakes. Kevin nodded, his eyes wet with tears. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. As the officers led Kevin away, Dr. Miller stopped Joyce on her way out. Miss Connie, I can never undo what my son's actions caused you to suffer. But please know how deeply sorry I am. Your job is waiting for you whenever you're ready to come back. Joyce looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Thank you, Dr. Miller. And I'm sorry about your son. I hope he gets the help he needs. Dr. Miller's eyes filled with tears. You're a better person than most, Miss Connie. Thank you. Outside the courtroom, a crowd was waiting. People clapped as Joyce walked out a free woman. News people took pictures and called out questions. But Joyce didn't stop for any of them. She just held Sharon's hand tight and walked down the courthouse steps into the bright sunshine. Miss Taylor was waiting with a car to take them home. Your apartment is all ready, she said. Some ladies from the church cleaned it up and stocked a fridge for you. Joyce looked like she might start crying all over again. I don't know how to thank everyone. As they were about to get in the car, Sharon tugged on her mommy's hand. Wait, Mommy. I need to do one more thing. Joyce looked down at her. What is it, sugar? I need to see the judge. I made him a promise. Joyce's face got worried. Sharon, we should just go home now. We've been through enough. It's important, Mommy. Please? It won't take long. Miss Taylor smiled. I can take her up if you want to wait here, Joyce. Judge Powell said he wanted to see her too, to thank her. Joyce didn't look happy about it, but she nodded. All right, but come right back down. I've been away from my baby too long already. Sharon hugged her mommy tight. I'll be real quick. Promise. Judge Powell was in his chambers, looking at a picture of Margaret on his desk. We did good today, Maggie, he whispered. Real good. There was a knock on his door. Come in, he called. The door opened and Sharon came in, followed by Miss Taylor. The little girl was smiling big as the sun. You did it, she said. You got my mommy out just like you promised. Judge Powell smiled back at her. No, Sharon, we did it. You were very brave to tell the truth about what you saw. Miss Taylor stood by the door. I'll just wait outside, shall I? 5 minutes, Sharon. Then we need to get back to your mother. After she left, closing the door most of the way, Sharon walked right up to Judge Powell's wheelchair. You kept your promise, so now I'll keep mine, she said. I'm going to help your legs work again. Judge Powell felt his heart start beating faster. Sharon, you don't have to do that. Getting your mother free was the right thing to do. I didn't do it for a reward. Sharon tilted her head. Don't you want to walk again? Don't you miss it? More than anything, Judge Powell admitted. Then let me help you. It's my gift. It's what I'm supposed to do with it. Judge Powell looked into her wise little eyes and nodded. All right. Sharon put her small hands on his knees. Just like before, close your eyes and think about walking on the beach with your wife again. That memory makes your heart happy. Judge Powell closed his eyes. In his mind, he could see Margaret so clear, her hair blowing in the sea breeze, her laugh carrying over the sound of the waves. Sharon's hands got warm, then hot. The heat spread through his legs like sunshine soaking into cold earth. The tingling turned into buzzing, then into a deep ache that wasn't exactly pain, but wasn't comfortable either. It felt like waking up after sleeping too long, like blood rushing back into a foot that had fallen asleep. It might hurt a little, Sharon warned. Your leg's been sleeping a real long time. Judge Powell gripped the arms of his wheelchair. The sensation was getting stronger, almost too much to bear. Sweat broke out on his forehead. You're doing real good, Sharon encouraged. Now, try to move your legs. Try real hard. Judge Powell focused with everything he had. At first, nothing happened. Then his right foot moved. Just a little, but it moved. Then his left. Then his knees bent slightly, just a tiny bit. That's it, Sharon said, her voice excited. Now, I'm going to count to 3, and you're going to try to stand up. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Judge Powell pushed himself up with his arms, like he always did when moving from his chair. But this time his legs pushed too. They wobbled something fierce. But they were working. He was standing. "Margaret," he whispered, tears filling his eyes. Sharon stepped back, watching with a big smile. "Try taking a step, Judge." "Just a little one." Holding on to the edge of his desk with one hand, Judge Powell lifted his right foot. It shook like a leaf in the wind, but it moved. He set it down an inch ahead of where it had been. He'd taken a step. His first step in 3 years. "I can't believe it," he said, his voice all choked up. "Believe it," Sharon said. "Your legs just needed to be woken up." She looked at him serious-like. "They ain't all better yet. You'll need to do exercises and work real hard. And I'll need to help you a few more times. But you will walk again, Judge Powell. For a real walk, not just a few steps." Judge Powell carefully lowered himself back into his wheelchair, his legs trembling from the effort they'd just made. He looked at Sharon with wonder in his eyes. "How can I ever thank you, Sharon?" She smiled, her face lighting up like a little sun. "You already did. You brought my mommy back to me." There was a knock at the door, and Miss Taylor peeked in. "Time to go, Sharon. Your mother's waiting." Sharon gave Judge Powell a quick hug. "Don't tell nobody yet about your legs. It'll be our secret till they're stronger." As she skipped to the door, she turned back one more time. "See you soon, Judge. We got work to do." After she left, Judge Powell sat alone in his office, looking down at his legs. He wiggled his toes again, watching them move under his control. Then he did something he hadn't done in 3 long years. He laughed out loud with pure joy. 6 months later. The little building on Main Street used to be a shoe store, but now it had a bright new sign that said Second Chance Foundation. Inside, the front room had comfortable chairs and colorful pictures on the walls. It looked friendly, like a place where good things happened. Joy sat at the front desk, answering phones and greeting people who came in. She looked happy and healthy, with a new haircut and a pretty blue blouse. "Second Chance Foundation, how can I help you?" she said into the phone. "Yes, sir. We do offer support for families of incarcerated individuals. We have meetings every Tuesday evening at 7. You and your children are welcome to join us." In a room down the hall, Sharon sat with a little boy about 5 years old. The boy had his arm in a cast and tears on his face. "It hurts real bad," he sniffled. "The doctor said it's broken 2 places. Sharon put her hands gently on his cast. "Close your eyes and think about playing baseball again. That makes you happy, right?" The boy nodded, closing his eyes. Sharon's hands got warm, the soft glow spreading through the cast. The boy's face relaxed, the pain lines smoothing away. "It don't hurt so much now," he said, surprised. "It'll get better faster than the doctors think," Sharon told him with a smile. "You just keep thinking about playing baseball." In the biggest office at the back, Judge Powell, though everyone called him Tom now, was talking to a woman whose husband was in prison. "It's so hard on the kids," the woman was saying. "They don't understand why Daddy can't come home." Tom nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Our family support program can help with that, and we have volunteers who can mentor your children while their father is away." As he talked, Tom stood up from behind his desk and walked to a bookshelf to get some pamphlets for the woman. He moved slow with a cane for support, but he was walking on his own 2 feet. The woman's eyes widened. "I heard you used to be in a wheelchair." Tom smiled. "I was, for 3 years after my accident, but I got a second chance, just like we're trying to give to families like yours." After the woman left, Tom walked carefully down the hall to the front desk. Joyce looked up with a smile. "Busy day today," she said. 3 new families signed up for support services." "That's wonderful," Tom said. "Where's our miracle worker?" Joyce laughed. "Sharon's finishing up with little Timmy Wilson. That poor child broke his arm falling out of a tree. His mama was beside herself with worry." Just then, Sharon came skipping down the hall, followed by Timmy and his mother. The boy was smiling now, holding his casted arm like it didn't hurt anymore. "Thank you so much," Timmy's mother said to Joyce. "I don't know what your daughter said to him, but he's like a different child. The pain was making him so miserable." Joyce winked at Sharon. "She has a way with hurting people. Always has." After they left, Tom, Joyce, and Sharon stood together, looking around their foundation office. What had started as a small idea had grown into something beautiful, a place where people got second chances of all kinds. "I never thought my life would turn out like this," Joyce said. "From jail to running a foundation, and all because my little girl was brave enough to tell the truth." Tom leaned on his cane, smiling at them both. "I'd say it was because your little girl believed in miracles when the rest of us had forgotten how." Sharon took their hands in hers, her mommy's hand and her judge's hand, and squeezed them tight. "Everybody deserves a second chance," she said, wise beyond her years. "Sometimes they just need a little help seeing it." Outside the window, the afternoon sun painted the world golden. Inside, 3 people whose lives had been broken found themselves healed in ways they never expected. Not just in body, but in heart and soul too. And that was the greatest miracle of all.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.